Right now, 1.4 billion kilometers from where you're sitting, a planet you almost never think about is doing something that decided whether you would ever exist. Saturn. The ringed world most people file under pretty and forget. But here's what almost no one knows. Strip Saturn out of the solar system, and the math says Earth's orbit could stretch and warp until the seasons turn violent enough to threaten life as we know it. So here's the question. This whole video is built around, would Earth even be habitable without Saturn quietly holding the line? Hold on to that question. The answer is the last thing you'll hear, and it flips everything you think you know about that calm, ringed giant. Stay with me, because there are actually two shields out there protecting you. A big one, far away, and a smaller one closer to home. And almost every video tells you about the small one. This story is about the far one you've never been told about. Start with the thing Saturn does that you'd expect Jupiter to get all the credit for. When a comet or an asteroid comes screaming in from the outer dark, it has to cross the Jupiter-Saturn region to reach you. And computer simulations show that almost anything wandering into that zone gets violently flung back out of the solar system entirely. For decades, scientists handed Jupiter all the glory for this. It was called the shield. But newer simulations found something surprising. Saturn pulls nearly equal weight. Particles drifting into that region are far more likely to get hurled away than ones passing the lighter outer planets, Uranus and Neptune. Together, Jupiter and Saturn act less like a wall and more like a pair of gravitational slingshots, throwing dangerous objects out of the system before they ever reach the inner planets. Take Saturn out, and a whole population of those objects stops getting ejected and starts drifting inward, toward you instead. And that's the gentlest thing on this list. The next one reaches all the way down into the water you drink. Before Earth was even half the size it is now, it was a dry rock sitting in the wrong part of the solar system to collect water on its own. The water that fills your oceans, your rivers, your own body. It had to be delivered from somewhere else. And the leading explanation is that icy bodies from far out in the Jupiter-Saturn region were scattered inward by the gravity of the giant planets, crashing into the young Earth and seeding it with water. The same gravitational scattering that today throws objects away once threw the right ones toward us. Saturn was part of that ancient delivery system, so the giant that now guards your planet was once one of the hands that loaded it with the single ingredient life could not have started without. Here's the strange part. That same gentle, invisible tug Saturn gives also reaches your calendar, your seasons, even the ice ages themselves. Keep that in mind, because it pays off later in a way you won't see coming. Here's a number that should unsettle you a little. 0.1167. That's how stretched Earth's orbit is. So close to a perfect circle that you'd struggle to tell the difference by eye. And that near circle is not a coincidence. The exact shape of Earth's orbit is sculpted by the gravitational pull of the other planets, and the two loudest voices in that tug-of-war are Jupiter and Saturn. That gentle, round path is the reason your year has mild seasons instead of brutal swings between scorching summers and killing winters. Stretch that orbit out. Make it more elliptical. And parts of the year would roast while others froze solid, even though Earth never actually leaves the habitable zone. A planet sitting in the perfect place around its star can still be made unlivable by the shape of its path alone. Saturn helps hold that shape steady. But steady is exactly the word that's about to betray us, because the next one is where the calm starts to crack. Now the part almost nobody talks about. Researchers ran the simulations on what would happen if you tilted Saturn's orbit out of the flat plane the planets share. The result was startlingly sharp. The inner planets, Venus, Earth, and Mars, only stay locked in safe, nearly circular orbits if Saturn's tilt stays under roughly 10 degrees. Cross that line, and chaos begins leaking into the inner solar system, pumping up Earth's orbital stretch toward the danger zone we just talked about. 10 degrees. That's the entire margin standing between the gentle world you live on and a planet of violent extremes. The only reason you have never lived through a year that swung from boiling to frozen is that a planet over 1 billion kilometers away happens to ride almost perfectly flat. Its orbit tilted just 2.5 degrees from Earth's own. And here's where I have to be honest with you, because this channel doesn't do fear without facts. That flatness is not guaranteed to last forever. Remember that detail, because the final answer to our big question depends entirely on it. Now, quick turn, because the next one isn't about Earth at all. It's about a frozen moon that might be carrying a second copy of the whole experiment. Saturn isn't only defending life, it's hosting a rehearsal for it. Saturn now has 274 confirmed moons, more than any other planet in the solar system, after astronomers confirmed 128 new ones in a single announcement in 2025. But one of them stands apart. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, is bigger than the planet Mercury, wrapped in a thick orange haze with complex organic molecules, the raw chemical building blocks of life as we know it, quite literally raining out of its sky. Scientists believe Titan may resemble what Earth looked like before life arose here, around 3.5 billion years ago. So while Saturn shields the one planet where life actually took hold, it also carries, in deep freeze, a working model of where life might begin all over again. The same ringed giant doing the quiet defending is holding a second draft of the experiment. But hold that thought, because Saturn's reach doesn't stop at its own moons. It stretches across more than 1 billion kilometers and touches the rhythm of your climate directly. And that connection is stranger than it sounds. This is the one that reaches straight into your own life. The slow, tiny changes in Earth's orbit, how stretched it becomes, how its tilt wobbles over time, are driven in large part by the gravitational pull of Jupiter and Saturn. And those changes are the pacemaker behind the Milankovitch cycles, the deep rhythm that pushes Earth into ice ages and pulls it back out again over tens of thousands of years. In other words, the climate history written into the rock beneath your feet, the glaciers that carved out valleys and lakes, the warm windows when humans spread across entire continents, was conducted in part by a distant ringed metronome you can barely see in the night sky. Saturn doesn't just keep Earth alive in space, it helps set the tempo of life's entire story on this planet. And that makes me genuinely curious. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because the glaciers, the coastlines, the climate that shaped wherever you live right now were partly timed by a world 1 billion kilometers away. I want to see how many different corners of the planet are watching this. Drop your city. But that metronome is the exact thing the final twist is about, because a metronome only protects you for as long as it keeps perfect time. Before the last reveal, one more fact that recolors everything you've heard so far. The arrangement we've been calling a guardian wasn't always gentle. The current configuration of the giant planets was forged through a violent early chapter, a phase of instability in which the outer planets shifted and migrated, Saturn's orbit moved, and a storm of asteroids and comets was flung through the solar system, raining down on the young Earth and leaving the scars you can still see on the face of the moon. The calm, stable system you depend on today is the aftermath of ancient chaos that simply happened to settle into something that holds. Saturn did not gently take up its post as protector. It arrived through violence, and then it went quiet. Which leads directly to the question I asked you to hold from the very first second of this video. And the real answer isn't what you think. Here's the secret. Saturn has been hiding this entire video. The stability that keeps your orbit round, your seasons mild, your whole planet livable. It is not a permanent feature of the universe. It's a phase. Jupiter and Saturn sit just outside a knife-edge rhythm called the 5-to-2 resonance. Saturn circles the Sun twice for roughly every 5 laps Jupiter makes, taking about 29.5 years for a single orbit. And the same kind of simulations that show how that balance protects us also show its dark twin, that given enough time and one hard enough gravitational nudge from a star passing near our solar system, that very resonance can flip from guardian to executioner, slowly pumping up the outer planet's orbits until the system tears itself apart. Not tomorrow, billions of years from now, but built into the same mechanism that's keeping you alive tonight. So the answer to the question, would Earth be habitable without Saturn? Is no. But the deeper answer is stranger than a simple no. Saturn isn't keeping you alive because the universe is fundamentally safe and stable. It's keeping you alive because right now, in this impossibly thin slice of cosmic time, the balance simply happens to be holding. That calm ringed planet you scroll past and ignore isn't a solid wall protecting Earth. It's a spinning plate, and it has been spinning quietly, patiently, against the pull of chaos on both sides, for 4 billion years, for exactly as long as you have needed it to, which leaves us with something uncomfortable to sit with. Everything you have ever built, every life that has ever lived, every word ever spoken in the history of this planet, all of it has happened inside one quiet pause between 2 kinds of chaos, held open by a world that doesn't even know we're here. The only thing left to wonder is how long the plate keeps spinning, and whether anyone will still be around to notice the day it finally slows. If this just rearranged the way you see that ringed planet, you already know what the like button is for.